We recently made a little trip to Catalina State Park in Tucson, Arizona. While on that trip and connecting to the city water connection there, we found out that our check valve on our water pump was having an issue. Wanted to make this little video to show you the process of taking it apart and checking your check valve. It's a simple process. This way you might avoid an expensive repair job on your water pump or your trailer. Also, take a look at this video that we have posted right up here that involves an unexpected passenger we took from Phoenix to Tucson area with us and didn't find until we started looking for the water pump underneath our kitchen cabinets. So without further ado, take a look at this video on how to take your water pump apart and check the check valve to see if it's possibly stuck or not working correctly. Recently, we went on a camping trip to Catalina State Park in Tucson, Arizona. Has electric and water hookups, as most of the state parks in Arizona do. I hooked up the electric and everything was going there. So then I hooked up to the city water connection and started testing my faucets, which were working, so everything looked good. While we're in the trailer just kind of relaxing, I heard water rushing, and if you know the RV lifestyle, that is never a good sign. So I went outside to try to figure out what was going on. And that's when I saw water rushing out of my fresh water tank overflow valve. I had no idea that the city water connection and the water pump intersected in any way. So I knew I had to go looking for my water pump, which I did. I went inside the trailer and I looked under the bathroom access panel, and the water pump was not there. I went under the refrigerator to an access panel, and that is where I found the water pump. It also turns out that there is a T that connects to your water pump and also connects to the city water connection or the water lines that go throughout your trailer. So I went onto YouTube to try to find some answers to why this was happening with my fresh water tank. I did find out while online that the water pump has a check valve. That check valve prevents the water when you're hooked up to the city water connection from going into your fresh water tank. Well, obviously, since my fresh water tank was filling up and overflowing, that had failed. I also found out from YouTube videos that you could cycle your hot water, cold water, do that several times, and a lot of times that will take care of the problem because the check valve may have just gotten stuck. I did that several times, and that still did not take care of the problem. So I pretty much figured when I got back home I was going to be replacing my water pump. The water pump really is a fairly simple product. You put power to it and it cycles the water pump, and the diaphragms that are within here pump anywhere from probably 35 to 50 pounds of pressure depending on the water pump you have, and will put the water throughout your lines just like if you were connected to city water. There's not a lot to these. You have your switch, which turns the pump on and off. You have the diaphragm in here, which is the pumping and gives the pressure to your water from the water pump, and also pulls it from the freshwater tank. There's a little filter here that comes off, and that just filters out the water so you don't get debris into your system or into the water pump, and many times either your check valve can stick or sometimes debris does get into the check valve, and that will cause it to stay open, and that might be part of the cause of what you have if you ever have your water pump just cycling. So I took everything apart here, go through the process. Again, I've already done this, but I wanted to show you because it is a fairly simple operation, that if something like this ever happens to you, it's not a real hard thing to troubleshoot or fix. They do sell the check valves by themselves on Amazon for somewhere around $20. I'm going to take this apart and just show you what's involved with the check valve and how you could possibly fix that. So now when you take apart the water pump, you're going to see inside you have these diaphragms which pump the pressure that you use your faucets and shower and everything like that in the toilet as you would if you were hooked up to city water. Now we don't really need to see anything else in here, but that spins and pumps it, and so this we're going to put back. Here's where the parts that we're talking about with the check valve and the switch are at. So I'm going to take the switch off real quick. This will show you, here's the switch that when you activate it, you can hear it clicking there, maybe. And when power gets to it, it opens and closes your check valve. Your switch will turn on when there's some kind of a demand by opening a faucet or running your toilet or something like that. That's when the switch will turn on and open the check valve so the water can flow freely to whatever device your faucet, toilet, shower is open. When that power shuts down, when there's no longer a demand, the switch changes back and the check valve will close, which when you're connected to city water, it does not allow the water to flow through this water pump here, through this part. That check valve keeps it closed, and therefore with this check valve closed, water cannot come here. So it fills up the T, which is used for your fresh water pump to fill your water lines, or from the city water to fill your water lines. I'm going to take apart the check valve here so you can kind of see what's involved with that. It's just, there's a spring, couple O-rings so you don't leak from there, and the spring causes it to open and close. So I'm going to start putting this back, but in case you ever have this happen, it's really a pretty simple, whether you replace the whole check valve or you just take it and, like I did, try to get it to function here and there. But now you can see it flows easy, and when I put it back, the check valve part here that seals off has some ridges so it doesn't allow it to come all the way through. So you can get that put into place, then put the spring back in, and then you can put this piece back on. And you can go ahead and put it back in as it was. There is an arrow on this water pump also that shows the flow of the water. This is going to come from your fresh water tank, and that's going to go out to your lines, your toilet, sink, shower head, all that. So we're going to put the little, but now you can see as you push this, that freely moves, which it did not do before. So we're going to start putting this thing back together. So now let's put this back like I should have in the beginning. Put that over the diaphragm. Get the screws, in this case, the long one went on the single side and the shorter ones went on the double side, where there's two screws. Let's try to screw these in with the drill. Make it a little quicker. We're gonna screw this back on, get it again, snug but not too tight. All right, now we are ready to start putting the switch back on. And this is the moment that I realized I forgot a very important part. And after all that, I went and did the exact same thing again. So I will meet back in a second. All right, now we are ready after 2 mistakes to put this back on. You're going to place it onto your water pump, and this time you want to make sure your switch is in place. There are little keyhole spots to make sure you keep it in line correctly. And the long screw goes in the single side on mine. This is a SureFlow water pump. And this time it makes it a whole lot easier to tighten this down because it's not going the whole distance that it shouldn't have been going. So get this put on. Again, one more mistake. Hopefully for the final mistake, forgot to put the little bumper pad in place. So now hopefully we will have everything in place as it should be, which would be nice to finally get this correct. Get your switch put back together. The other side of the switch is still connected in my trailer. I didn't want to have to cut that apart. This way I only had to take a wire nut off, so putting it back together, I don't have to do any crimping of any wires or anything like that. I guess I could have put all this on before. Sometimes it goes a lot smoother when you don't have the camera on. Almost there. Get it tight, but not too tight. Now I can finally get the whole process finished. You want to make sure it's going on the correct way. Flow is coming from this side out that way. All right. Maybe for the final time, I will finally have it right. Just going to tighten everything back down. Hopefully you can kind of see what's going on here. Let's don't go too far with this. Again, you don't ever against plastic want to overstrip these. You don't want to over tighten them. But sometimes screwing these down by hand takes forever and it's just a pain process. So now I will get these snug all the way around. That is all there is to putting it back together. Now I'm going to go install it back in my trailer. So once you put the water pump back together, it's time to get it installed back in your RV. I pre-did the screws just so I could speed it up a little bit. So Last step is to just get the wire nut back together with the negative side. You just hand tighten these, you don't want it to be too tight. Well, that's the process of putting it back in. Now I get to clean up my mess. Well, now that I have the water pump installed back in my trailer, I turned on the water pump and everything was working and no leaks. And now I've connected to my house water to see if my freshwater tank overflows. If it doesn't overflow, then I think that check valve issue is what took care of it. It actually seems to be a little quieter than it was before too, so that's always a plus.